Okay, we're on with Luke Larson talking about Chapter 1 of Senator's Son. He's going to orient us as to the location and the date of the events that occur in that book.
The key date in this chapter is October 4th, and that's when we conducted a mission called Operation Bowie. The scene starts out in the room a few days prior, and I don't remember the exact date, but I know we had this conversation. All of the lieutenants were sitting in our room.
What's the general time frame for that?
It's October 2005, and it is roughly 2 weeks before the Iraqi national referendum to ratify their first constitution, which is a major mark in their history. It's a major benchmark. So a few days prior, all the lieutenants were sitting in the room here on Snake Pit, and we had been in Ramadi for roughly 30 days. On October 4th, we'd been there 25 days. And a unit historically takes 50% of their casualties in the first 30 days because they're new to the ground and they're learning how the enemy's TTPs are, and it's easiest for the enemy to exploit a green unit. We'd been there roughly 25 days, and I think we'd taken one casualty, but we had not had a KIA. And so we were sitting aboard the Snake Pit discussing how we'd been in contact, we'd been shot at, we'd been hit by IEDs, we'd taken RPGs, but we'd yet to take a major casualty. And by that I mean killed in action.
Can you zoom into Snake Pit?
The Snake Pit was a compound here that was an old Iraqi Army compound, and in 2005 the Marine Corps had bases. This was the Snake Pit, this was Camp Ramadi, this was Blue Diamond, oh this was Hurricane Point, this is Blue Diamond, and this is Camp Ramadi. So all of the U.S. bases were largely outside of what we called Ramadi proper, and that's this triangle in here in between the two rivers. We had a base here called OPVA and a base here called the Gov Center, but these bases were secured. They were secured bases, so they weren't like living with the people. They were living in a castle in the middle of town, and the 95% of the military forces lived outside of the city. So on October 4th, we were to conduct a mission to go down south and do a clearing op in this area in southern Ramadi, which they call this village down here the village of Humera. And there's an army battalion here, a Marine battalion in Ramadi proper, and another Army battalion up top. And these three battalions fell underneath an Army Reserve Brigade. The Army Reserve Brigade's plan was to conduct a brigade-minus mission to sweep through essentially this half of the southern city and this half of the southern city. Well, we didn't live in the city. So we go out and we conduct an op, and then when we would return to our bases, we would never stay out in the city. So the mission was something in the effect of, and it's probably not 100% accurate, but it's very close, is conduct this brigade-minus sweeping action in order to prevent enemy attacks on the national referendum that's coming up 2 weeks later. This act is very much like a playbook out of something you would see for what the Marine Corps' pinnacle training exercise is called Mojave Viper. We have large unit sweeping movements and like a movement to contact action against a fixed conventional enemy. We conducted this maneuver in southern Ramadi, but they called this an enemy strong point, but there was just the enemy was living amongst the people. It's not like they had bunkers and stuff like that. So when we swept through there, we had an enormous coalition force movement go through here against basically people's homes. So on October 4th, a few days before, the lieutenants were kind of discussing like, hey, we've yet to take a casualty. We're doing this big movement, and we are hesitant to do this big movement because we really didn't understand why are we going to go down there with all this if we don't leave something behind. And we said that. Now we didn't know exactly what was going on, but we had a pretty good feeling that it didn't make any sense to go down there and not leave anybody. The characters involved, the key players in my point of view from this op were Lieutenant Matt Hendricks was the mobile section leader. He was the mobile platoon commander, and my platoon, 3rd platoon, was the dismount element. So Lima companies.
And Matt, in your book, Matt Hendricks is John
Magruder.
Yeah.
So essentially the Army was going to sweep this half, and then the Marines were going to sweep this half. Now we had tanks and Bradleys and all kinds of other stuff, other attachments attached to us. And when we moved out to conduct this op, we started to drive, the scheme maneuver, we were going to drive down Route Michigan with Lima Mobile, and an India Company platoon was going to be out in front. We were going to head down this road, Sunset, down to Central, and then Lima Company's, our actions, we were going to dismount and sweep this area here. India Company was going to sweep this area here. In the midst of this, we're going to have Army tanks and Bradleys like surrounding us. So as we started to move down, the order's all messed up. It's supposed to go in a very methodical order with like Bradley's first, then tanks, then India Company, then Lima Company. We're driving down here, and it's very disorganized. We can't tell. There's tanks and Bradleys on this road, and we don't really know what's going on. We continue to push, and the game plan is essentially that one mobile section will screen, the other mobile section will insert us. And so India Companies moved down here, and as we're moving down, this is checkpoint 342, this is checkpoint 295, and this is IED elbow. It's important to note that everything basically south of this was designated as a black area, and that means we knew all these roads had IEDs laid in them.
Can you zoom in on each of those checkpoints and give us an idea of the small level terrain?
This is Ramadi's the provincial capital of Anambra province. There's roughly 300 to 400,000 people that live in here. It's a dense urban grid. And as you're coming down here, this checkpoint 295, they call this IED elbow, and this is checkpoint 342.
Can you zoom in on each of those and just kind of describe that terrain there?
This checkpoint 295 is the major intersection in the city. It'd be the equivalent to like where I-8 meets I-10 in San Diego. So you've got a high traffic flow rolling through here. This road here, Route Michigan, is called Shah Alam, which is Main Street. And this Main Street runs all the way from Ramadi to Fallujah and into Baghdad. North of the city is a bigger super freeway called Route Mobile, and I don't know the Iraqi name for it, but this is a very busy street. It'd be like the main street running through Chicago.